Right, so let's have a closer look at that human structure, because ultimately where we want to end up today is ourselves. What can we do about our health? What can we do about the diseases that we come across in our lives or that we see around us? So it's about us ultimately, right? The whole thing about the universe was to give you that bigger frame. It's more than just us, and you can't understand us, or I'll put it differently, you keep arguing about us, what humans are like, you know, what they want, how it functions, how your digestive system functions, what your how many or what your cortisol level should be, and so on. You keep arguing about these things unless you put it in a larger framework that actually shows you how things are, and they must be the same everywhere. Right? There are slight differences in the way it's being expressed, and we'll come to that. You'll come across that a bit later as well. There's slight differences in the way that things are expressed, but the actual thing itself, the structure of it, how it interacts with one another, is the same. So, the human being, the human being, what have we learned so far? Never forget. Everything, the universe itself and everything in it is energy. Everything in it is energy. The matter that is in the universe is energy. And that energy changes, then that changes, possibly changes, the matter. Which is important, because it means that as long as you are trying to change things via physical means, you're missing the essence. Your energy. Your body is energy. So, every single part of that body, including the atoms and the molecules within that body, are there because of a contraction, a compaction of energy. If I change the energy, then that molecule might disappear or might take on another form. So as long as I am looking to improve my life via material things, I am missing the point. I need to look at the life force, the contraction force, and the expansion force. And that's it. The life force is what gives me life. And not all of us have the same life force. There are human forms that are only supposed to live for a few months or a few hours. They don't have much more life force beyond that. We're not all the same. We're not all supposed to become 150 years old. Not all of us have the life force in us to achieve that. There will be people that have got that life force in it, but because of bad management of contraction force and expansion force, They don't make it to 150 years old. They die when they're 65. And then the doctor tells them, it's good that you had your treatment because otherwise you would have died when you were 62. Yeah, well, yeah. So that's all I need to look at. Life force, contraction and expansion. Bear it in mind. Matter is nothing else as the tiny little bit right at the center of its own energy field. Because the energy field contracts, and that is what makes the matter. Right? So the matter is the most condensed part of that energy field. So how do I get to that matter? By extension, how do I get to this body? When you get to matter, energy is compressed matter. There's only two ways in the universe that you compress matter. Either you increase the pressure on that field, so you have the balloon, yeah, with the gas in it, and you press on it, right? You press on it and you press that gas together, and if you can press it hard enough, it will materialize in the center. The other way is inside the balloon, you decrease the temperature, and when things get colder, they shrink. So inside the field, you decrease the temperature. Outside the field, you increase the pressure. And that may result, inside your energy field, it may result into matter. So, what is it that is being compressed then? It's energy. Energy has a full spectrum. So it contains a lot of frequencies. And it's one octave after another. Right? Not all energy fields have got the entire spectrum. The entire spectrum of the universe is divided up into bits. And in certain galaxies, there will be a number of, say, octaves, a bit of that whole spectrum that manifests. And so it's bits within that, or alongside that whole spectrum, there are bits that manifest into matter. But it's always the 7 frequencies, because the 7 frequencies go down to the last bit, i.e. the atom. Yeah? You'll find the frequencies right down to the smallest manifestation, the smallest matter. One way of visualizing it, getting an idea of this, take the visible light. We've got our 7 colors. The first thing that many years ago I noticed about this was that, well, there are 2 things. One, I thought, in my childlike mind I suppose, that a continuum would mean that gradually I move from the red color, it starts to change gradually, and then it sort of is in an in-between stage, and then it becomes orange, and then it gradually moves on, and it gradually becomes yellow, and gradually... That's not the case. It's got very specific frequencies that cover the whole red spectrum, and there it stops. From there on, any frequency that is just beyond this, these are not the frequencies, these are the wavelengths, but they're interrelated. So, just beyond that, left to that, from your point of view, left to that line, it's a red color. Right to that line, it's an orange one. There is a divide. It's a spectrum, continual spectrum, but there are dividing lines. Second thing, this is the red color. It's not equally red from that wavelength to this wavelength. No. There are nuances in that. There are different types of red. They're all in this part of the spectrum, but they're different from one another. Why? Because they're different frequencies. So red, the color red, is a whole range of frequencies between this frequency and that frequency. It's all red. But you and I can see the differences as we go along that spectrum. Right? So we have 7 different colors in that spectrum. The other thing that I now notice is that there's much more red in the visible light than there is blue. Why? It's this combination that gives me white light, visible light. But none of these bars are equal length. Red is the biggest one, followed by green, indigo, blue, orange, blue, violet, yellow. Not the same length. So there's more red in it, very little yellow, but it's there. All 7 colors are always there. All 7 frequencies are always there. But the combination, this combination, gives me white light. So, ancient knowledge tells us that what has been created comes from what goes before. Why? Because creation is just a matter of contraction. Yeah? You compress it. So, hey, you get some matter, in this case, red light, red color. When I keep compressing it, the green one appears. Keep compressing it, indigo. And that is the reason why we've got some over a larger part of the spectrum and some over a smaller part, because it comes right at the end of the contraction, the compression bit. If we say, you know, the colors, if we get the colors matched up with figures so that it's easier, because we can use the figures without having to refer to the colors, because the colors really are only existing in the visible light. But, you know, from the lower frequencies to the higher frequencies, then red is the first color, orange is the second, yellow is the third, green is the fourth, blue is the fifth, indigo is the sixth, and violet is the seventh. So let's use the figures. So red is 1, is followed by green, followed by number 6, by 2, by 5, by 7, by 3. That's how these colors manifest in the creative process, right? Now, we also know that there is a particular equilibrium, particular way in which nature manifests these things. It's the golden ratio. When you divide up a line according to the golden ratio, you get 7 into 7 pieces. Then the largest part of that line occupies 39% of that line. Second part, 24, 15, 9, and so on. These are fixed. Yeah? We find these combinations in artwork as well as in nature. People have known about these combinations for a very long time and have used them in places you don't even think about and we're not told about. But it's very important because if we go back to our light, our visible light, red occupies 40%, green 24.5%, 50%, and so on. And remember, this is the way that the colors are being created out of white light. You're compressing it. And they always end up in that particular fashion. Right? So, that is how creation happens, in that order. We had 7 frequencies, manifestation, and also matter manifests in that order. The first one has the biggest part in the whole. The second one, 24%, third one, 15%, 9%, and so on, down the line. So, the place this figure has got in the line indicates at what stage it is being created and how big the part is that it plays in the whole. Right. What do we know about creation? We know one thing that's been created in a particular way. The universe. Right? And these are the particular days. This is the order in which it's created. Right? If that is the order, then surely we can put the figures alongside it. So day 1, heaven and earth, occupies the longest time period of the whole of the life cycle of our universe. 39 and so much percent. 24.5%. Yeah? So, this is correct because we know, or we can calculate, when plants occurred first. And that's much earlier than when the first animals occurred. So the plants, we start with bacteria, yeah? Unicellular organisms. Much earlier than any animal occurred. We know when the mammals came to this planet. And it's not somewhere in between there. No. It's right at the end, when the other animals, basic stuff has been created. So it all takes its particular place. Now that we've got them identified with figures, and we have 7 days of creation, and we have 7 layers of creation, and we have a particular order in which they're created, we also have 7 tissues and 7 systems, as we discussed this morning. So how do they relate to that? Well, we'd already mixed those up, hadn't we? We'd already connected the tissues to the days. We did that this morning. And what we see now, when we connect those again, as we did this morning, but they now put according to their figure, then we see that the first part of the tissues is the water part. When that gets more compressed, it becomes more dense. Thicker water we call blood. When we keep compressing that blood, blood is still flowing. When we keep compressing it, we start to fix it. So the blood can't flow away anymore, it's fixed, but it still moves between its fixation points. That's what we call muscles. When we stop that movement by compressing, and the movement in between those points stop, but the whole thing is still pretty loose, the whole structure of the tissues is pretty loose. It's like a fat bubble, yeah? It's like a jelly. Flick it and it wobbles. It doesn't contract, but it wobbles. That's your fat tissue. Compress that even further and it becomes hard. It doesn't wobble anymore. It's your bone tissue. As I said earlier this morning, the nerve tissue is the hardest one that you can have, the most compact, the most dense tissue that you've got. And beyond the nerve is the seed. Why? Well, the seed is the most compacted form of the whole of the organism. Inside the seed is all the information to manifest, to grow the organism. Corn seed has all the information compacted, compressed in it to grow corn. Seed of a human being, call it the DNA. It's more than the DNA, but inside the seed of the human being, all the information that is required to build that human being. That's the most compressed form you can get. So that's why it's at the bottom. So that's your 7 tissues, in line with how they are being created. The next one that is created comes from the compression of the previous form. 7 times. And those tissues relate to systems. Watery system, a blood system. Plants are, a muscle system is the movement, which we find in our digestive and breathing system. Fat is the energy source for my mobility system. Bone and sensory system. Took me a long time to feel comfortable with that. But it fell into place in that slot next to bone, because the nervous system obviously belongs to nerves, the glandular system belongs to the seed. Glandular system is more than the seed, but and all the others. So sensory system and bone. Our senses are protected, are coming out of, are encased in bone structure. Ears, eyes, nose, mouth. It's all down the bone structure of your face. So that is why it has a direct relationship with those tissues. Okay, so there's your visible light. It vibrates. Matter, visible light, is matter. Yeah? It's a physical manifestation of energy. Only a part of it's physical manifestation of energy. And that means the physical part is a fixed format. Energy is free floating, can go anywhere. Once it's fixed in matter, it has limits in which it can maneuver. Each of those particular colors is made up of the same 7 different frequencies, if you want to call it. Give you an example. 1, if I combine the colors in this way, bearing in mind the first one takes up 39%, 24.5%, 15%, and so on and so forth, right? So if I combine them in that way, I get the color red. This is the subdivision of the color red. I'm not going to bore you with all of those, but there are a few interesting bits. So take the 7, the humans. This is the violet color, and this is the subdivision of the violet color. This is the sequence in which the colors need to be put together to get the violet color. Okay? Which you see totally different from red. If you put them in that order, you get red. Put them in this order, you get violet. Have a look. Yeah. Mammals. Right? It's the blue color. This is the combination of the blue color. Notice something? It's almost the same. The only thing that's different is the first 2. What should that mean in physical terms? It should mean that the physical format of mammals should be fairly comparable with humans. And the amount of space and the amount of function that each system, the watery system, the blood system, within those 2 totally different creatures or creations should be very similar. Well, they are. There are differences, of course there are differences, different manifestations, but the basic outline is pretty much comparable. Do one more. The 7th day, right? What comes after humans we don't know. But we do know what energetic format it will have. Because in order to make yellow, we need to have this combination. When the universe completely finished its creation, day 7 is finished, which means all of these are completely manifested. We're at the end of the creation of the universe. The whole of the Creator has been expressed completely. Yeah? God created human beings in His own image. Right? Somewhere it says that. Have a look at these combinations. The humans and the universe, the creator, they are mirror images. Have a look. 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 4, 3, 1, 3. Hello. It said that somewhere, and this is what we end up with. At the end, when the creation is completely expressed itself, it is a mirror image, not the same. We're not God, we're not the whole of creation, but we are an image of it. When we complete the octave, the last one here, this means, yeah, an octave, so we put 3 there. What follows on when the whole of the universe has been created and being expressed? Here, it follows a new octave. Just continues, one octave after another. What would that be? That would be a new universe. Alright? Never mind. Never mind. So, we've got a system, an organism. All these organisms, including the unicellular bacteria, they all have the 7 systems. Every cell in your body has got the 7 same systems. Yeah? It's got a circulation system, it's got a nervous system, it's got all those 7 systems. Different expression, but it's in there. And in each of those systems, you can find the 7 different tissues. All the same for all organisms. Different expressions, which means different characteristics, different way of functioning. But the structure of it is all the same. And each of those specimens, each of those are very unique combinations. What I said about the red color is not just red all the way through, it changes, and we can see that when we look at a color palette. All of the colors got a whole range of ways that it's still yellow, but it's a different yellow, and so on and so forth. So, in the physical manifestation, you have the 7 frequencies. So, every color, if you like, every of the 7 figures are in there. A tiny bit of it. Yeah, a tiny bit of it is actually fixed into the physical manifestation. So a tiny bit, put it differently, I am, as a human being, an expression of a tiny bit of frequency 1 and a tiny bit of frequency 4 and tiny bit, and those tiny bits are different from your tiny bits. My tiny bits are different from your tiny bits. You should know that. It's part of the red color that is fixed in me. I can't go beyond that bit that is fixed, that bit of right color that is fixed in me. I can't go beyond the bit of green color that is fixed in me. And my neighbor has got the same frequencies, but he's got different colors, different shades, different volumes. Yeah? So we're all unique specimens, in the sense that we're all unique combinations of those frequencies. We're all created out of frequency 7, because we're all human beings. Yeah? So we're all created in a format 7, 5, 2, 6, 4, 1, 3. Yeah? The seed, lowest form, only 2.2% of each of us. That is not different. But the quality of that seed, yeah? Is it a bright yellow or a shady yellow? That's the difference. And that's unique to each and every one of you, for each and every one of those colors. So we all have the same 7 systems. Yeah? That is why the medical profession can create anatomy books. And then they publish them and they make you believe that your body is exactly as it's printed. Well, it's exactly not the same. And sometimes it can be very different. Yeah? There are people that have the position of their heart on the other side of the chest. There are people that are born with 3 kidneys. There are people without a thumb. There are people. So all manifestations of different bits of the same energy spectrum. Yeah? What is manifested is only a tiny bit, and remember this, it's fixed. If you go beyond those fixations, you blow it. Example, I don't know if you're all old enough to remember, but there was a famous video with Ella Fitzgerald. There was a champagne glass stood on a table, and Ella Fitzgerald hit a certain note, and the glass just burst apart. Right? What's the glass? As it's standing there, it's perfectly okay within its limits, its physical limits of creation. There's a balance. When you make that, and it's a balance of vibration, yeah? Frequencies, vibration. If you disturb that balance beyond its fixed points, the structure disappears. In this case, the glass just blows apart. Yeah? That is why you can visualize this. You can watch bacteria. Yeah, they're big enough to see under a microscope, live, so you can see them move. So you can film this. You can hit those bacteria, certain bacteria, with certain frequencies. Yeah, so a machine that sends out frequencies, vibrations, and you can watch the bacterial structure just blow apart, literally, just poof, and it's gone. Where is all the debris from it? Gone. It dissolves into what? Nothingness. Nothingness meaning its energy form. It releases the fixed point, so the energy comes free, and it's just energy. It's no longer physical matter. It's about that vibration, but what is important is to remember that all physical matter is fixed energy, small bits of each frequency put together, and it's fixed, it's limited in its scope. That's important. Yeah? Now, the other thing that was important was that matter, energy, all the interactions are energetic interactions. The things that change matter in its format or in its function is a change in energy, not a change in matter, a change in energy. And since we're all made, the whole universe is made out of the same frequencies, different octaves, different bits, but all basically the same energies. If such an energy is to change, in principle, it affects everything in the universe. Everything. Right? Hence, the old Chinese saying that if somebody coughed in Bangkok, there was a storm in New York. Yeah? The other side of the globe. It has its effect. What that effect is, that is dependent on a lot of things, but we just for now need to recognize that there is an effect. So, energy changing. What does that mean? How can it change? What is changing? First of all, amplitude. What is an amplitude? It is how high the peak of your waves, your vibrational waves are. So it's how bright a light is, how bright a color is, how much power there is in it, how loud music is. It's the amplitude. Another way it can change is the direction in which the energy flows. Energy flows, has no boundaries. It flows everywhere, right? And here again, I used to think that it equally sort of travels throughout space. So if it starts here at day one, you know, it's reached this point, and the same here, and the same there, and the same there. That's rubbish, right? Because it encounters all sorts of other energies. So it flows, yes, through the energetic field of the universe, but in some parts it goes much further, much more powerful than in other parts. So it's not equally divided. But what we do know is that the direction in which that energy mainly flows, it takes energy to that other place, to that other energy that it encounters. So the direction in which it goes, that's where the energy goes. That's where the biggest exchange in energy is going to take place. But that also means your attention, that you pay attention to something, you direct your energy in that direction, you give energy, you exchange energy to whatever it is you're paying attention to. Yeah? So, it doesn't matter what energy you send in that direction, meeting the existing energy. It doesn't matter. Everything that you do is you create more interactions. So, if you are fighting an injustice, you direct your energy to fighting an injustice, you empower that injustice. Because you give it energy. You exchange energy with it so it can actually take energy. How does that express itself? The more opposition you provide, the greater the force you'll be facing. Check it out. Check it out. Just become aware of it. Try it out. Yeah? If somebody accuses you of something, go and defend yourself. And see what happens. The chances are that you get an awful lot more on coming your way. Just because you're defending yourself. Because then the other one's going to defend himself. And so on. So, the direction is where you send your energy, and be aware that where that energy is going is where there is going to be a big exchange. Yeah? So, big exchange means things may change. And the last way is change the frequency. You shift the frequency. But be well aware, the frequencies within yourself are limited. And so often I hear people say, but other people can do it. But my neighbour, he smokes twice as much as I do and he never coughs. Well, maybe his limits, his fixation points are different from yours. You reach your walls, he doesn't. What does society want? It wants him to stop too because you're suffering. I can't eat any nuts on an aeroplane because there may be somebody there who's allergic to nuts. Right? Changing the frequency means that you could be changing the function of that organism or the structure of that organism. So, each human being only has small range within each of the frequencies. So we have to take notice of that, because there are things you are physically, mentally, as a human being, incapable of changing. That's a natural fact. I wish that our rulers, politicians and others, would start to take notice of that. Or maybe they do, and they know that if you just push on with it, that most of you will blow up under the strain. Just disappear, just die off the face of the earth. Good riddance. Yeah? So we have to be thinking about, thinking, feeling, we have to take notice of a change in frequencies, of a change in environment. Every change has an effect on everything else. But it's not always the same effect. It's not always the same effect. Some people get away with it. And others, slightest little change, and they're ill. Yeah, or they get a rash, or whatever it is. So, is it the fault of the prawn that you get a rash, and that the 15 other people that were sat at the same table and ate the same things don't get a rash? Not the fault of the prawn. It's to do with your limitations, right? And your system responding in a particular way. And this afternoon we're going to talk about that particular way, how the system responds. So it's an individual response. And we need to explore what that means, where it comes from, and how we can influence it. Because you can. All within limitations. But you can influence it. So, the resonant frequency is what we call a frequency that keeps things together in a particular format. Like the champagne glass has a resonant frequency, and if Ella Fitzgerald's voice breaks that frequency, it can no longer hold the elements, the frequencies, in that fixed format, and it blows apart. Yeah? we all have a resonant frequency, which is the combination of frequencies, the bits that are fixed within you. Yeah? We all have red and green, and we all have figure 1, 4 and 6, and we all have that. But which part? Which bit? And it's not always the same amount, and it's not always the same strength. It differs. That is why we say that people have got their strengths and their weaknesses. Yeah? Because they're not so powerful in certain aspects of life, which means in certain frequency ranges. They're there, but they can't have much of it before they start to suffer. And others are made to just walk through it all. And you go, I want some of that. Well, you can't have it. It's already been used. And you don't want a second-hand one, I can guarantee you that. So, as a conclusion, we have to remember the limited range that we all carry. We have to respect that. If we want that not to be a hindrance, not to be an obstacle to life, then it's important that you learn your limitations. Don't look at your neighbor. You're not going to get any wiser. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what it's like for you. What are your limits? So we need to get to know ourselves much better. And particularly in a much different way. Yeah? It's no longer what the psychology books say. It doesn't matter. What matters is how it is for you. And the only thing you can learn about that is how it is today, right now. That's all you can learn. Because all the rest is a think job. Oh, as a child, I felt like this. Yep. That is what you remember. That is what you wrote down in your diary and you put in your pocket. But what about all the other things that you didn't write down? Yeah? I look at family photo albums. What a happy life. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But here's a nice thing. Nobody took any pictures when there were blazing rows. Nobody. Nobody took any pictures when I was vomiting my guts out. So I don't have those memories. They're not in the album, right? You can only remember certain things. And yes, they may be useful just as a checking point. But it's not all of it. Just look at today. Right now, you can get information about how you feel. You can link that at what you're thinking at this moment in time. You can link that at where you are at this moment in time. What you've eaten, what you've drunk, who was with you, what kind of conversations you had. You can do that today. If you start doing it about today, next week, you're off the rails. Guarantee you. Why? Because I know from myself, our conscious mind is so small. It only remembers what it wants to remember. When I want to be angry, I remember it. When I want to be happy, I remember that. And I don't remember anything else. Our conscious mind is too small to take note of everything. Yeah? So we need to learn more about ourselves. Right? Influences are there all the time. The universe is in evolution. It doesn't stand still. It moves. And because it moves, things change all the time. We should know. We've got 4 seasons every year. What is appropriate for you to do in the winter, you don't want to do it in summer. Because you don't benefit from it, it may even be hurtful to you. Things change all the time. And we need to adapt. But in order to adapt appropriately for yourself, you need to know what you can and you can't do. Or, what if you are doing this is going to cost me an awful lot of energy. And that means I can't do this anymore, that for a while, I have to forget about it. So the fact that things change all the time, we don't need to stop it, right? We don't need to stop level of CO2 going up in the air. We don't need to stop the Earth warming up with half a degree. We don't need to stop all that. We don't need to equalize things. We need to let it flow. We need to see how it influences our own energy field. And so also our own very own physical structure. Right? So each specimen, each of you, just need to look at yourself. How you respond to it. Do you function better when it's warmer? Not everybody. The people that have great difficulty in functioning when the temperature in the summer goes up. Others have great difficulty in functioning when in the winter the temperature goes down. Right? What are we going to do? I tell you what we'll do. We'll make the temperature the same all year round. Then everybody will be happy. Yeah, that's democracy for you. Yeah? I'll tell you what everybody needs, and that's what we'll do. No, it's in evolution. It doesn't need to be stopped. The movement doesn't need to be stopped. We, as individuals, need to understand, A, that it's always going to move, and we need to look at, just ourselves, how we are going to deal with that. That's all. And that is really what this afternoon we need to do. I need to be able to give you clues as to where to look and how to look. To get to know yourself a bit better. To know where your limits are. And what you can do about it. You can't become another person. Forget it. Yeah? Forget it. You can't become another person. But you can learn to respond differently. That you can learn. Yeah, you can learn different responses. Not a different person. But what you do with those elements that you're made out of, that you can change. Okay? So, that's for this afternoon. For people that want to be kept informed about new articles that are published or events that we take part of, then that is sent out in emails. I'm not going to call it a newsletter because I don't do things on a regular basis. But for people that would like to be kept informed and are not already on the list, in other words, don't receive any notification emails, they can have a word with Martine and leave your email address with Martine so that we can inform you of new things.
You talk about and the frequency of the Earth has been affected in many ways. What's your opinion of something like the 5G frequency?
It's only a small frequency out of the whole spectrum. The whole thing is everything is natural. Everything that manifests in the universe is natural. Right? So 5G is a natural frequency. And yes, in places we can make too much use of it or concentrate it. But in the whole of the universe is in charge. Not the human being. You cannot destroy nature. Why not? Because nature has created everything. If you destroy nature, you destroy the universe. It's not going to happen. No nuclear bomb will do it. Nothing will do it. Everything that humans are busy with. Have a look on the whole universal spectrum, right? And then look at where visible light is. It's a dot. Where's 5G? You can't see it. And that is going to destroy it. That is like saying a virus is destroying your life. You can't find it anywhere. You can't see it anywhere. It is insignificant. And still it's going to do all that rubbish. Do you know what's going to destroy it? Or what is going to destroy a lot of people's life? Worrying. Worrying. Yeah? All of this about the 5G thing is really all very similar to electricity 40, 50 years ago. Electricity generators and the high pylons. And I got very interested in the fact that there were plenty of medical reports saying that there were higher cancer incidences around these places. So I studied that for a long time. And, I believe that it was the radiation from the electricity and all of this and all of that. Ultimately, nothing happens with that. Yes, you get clusters of diseases and forms of diseases, but this afternoon we're going to look at what disease really is. And then we need to put all these things in the right place, right? Because it's no different saying, oh, it's the electricity generator that has given me the cancer. That is no different from saying it was the asbestos in the roof that has given me the cancer, or it's the cigarettes that has given me the cancer, or it's the genetically modified tomato that I've eaten that's given me the cancer. What is all that? It's all material stuff. And where does matter changes? It changes in the energetic exchanges, not in the matter. So, and in the matter is included radiation. That itself is an expression of a changed energy. Right? And if you focus on the matter, you're missing the point. Behind your back, they're doing far worse things, but you're not aware of it. And in 20 years' time, you become aware of it, and then you run after them and you go, you did this and you did that, and they're busy with something else. What are you wasting your time for? It's about energies. It's not about any of that. No matter how bad you think it is, right? If you carry energy to it, you make it worse. So, for yourself. So, if you worry about any of those things, you're the one that's going to get ill. Not your neighbor who is just enjoying life and walked with his dog, and the rest, he didn't give a shit. Right? You're going to get ill, not him. It's your choice. This afternoon, we'll put all of that in place. Well, that's the idea. Yeah? That's the idea. And so that we can start thinking from an energetic level and an energetic interactions, rather than having to hark back to, but I do need to take my antibiotics. Should I not have some steroids? I do need the operation because my hip is so bad. Yeah? It's not the point. Okay?
Patrick,
Yeah.
just on that, but then if everybody's got different fixed points and limitations, cannot, say, a wave of energy frequency affect one person more than another?
Yeah,
So then,
absolutely.
yeah, okay.
And so, one of the conclusions, that's absolutely right, I conclude from that it's pointless to have a public health system. Public health doesn't exist. The only health that exists is individual health. That's all that exists. Public health doesn't exist. So if there is some change in energies that affect a lot of people, all these individuals that are being affected by it, they get the message, look at yourself. How can you do this differently? Yeah? And there are limitations. There are also limitations to what you can do. In other words, if there is a serious change of energies, frequencies, then a lot of people will die. Right? Now there's two ways you can die. You can die fighting, in pain, hurting, suffering, or you can die understanding what is happening and go, okay, I can't do that, so finish is here, that's fine. Have a last coffee, last smoke, bye. So what? Yeah?
Sorry, can I just say, but I know you're asking us to think differently, so I haven't quite got it yet, and I'll be honest with you. So, look at the prawn, right? So someone's got an allergy to a prawn, and you're saying that's a limitation. But then also, they could cleanse their blood. So a plant will only get attacked when it's weak, right? So if a human being has an autoimmune condition because they're taking too many chemicals, there's an opportunity to cleanse their blood, or surely that's not a limitation. Am I not on the right track here? That's not a limitation.
How come some people take what you call poisons, and get ill from it, and others take even more poisons and don't get ill from it?
You're saying that's their attitude.
No, I'm saying that is the personal limitation. That's a personal response to the environment. In this case, poison that you take.
Okay.
Give you one extreme example, right?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people over time who try to kill themselves with paracetamol. Totally useless, but they keep trying, yeah? On the other hand, I know that people have died from paracetamol intoxication for less than 10 paracetamol. Not taking to kill themselves, but to combat pain and die from it. And others who've taken 30 and 40 feel bad for a while, fine, yeah, nothing happens. So it's always turn it around. We are living in a society where everything is the outside. It has to be somebody's fault. Some minister will have to stand down because somebody needs to take responsibility for this. The only person who doesn't take responsibility and doesn't need to take responsibility is me. When something happens to me, somebody else is responsible, even if it's God. Yeah, because he's a tricky one too. It's always somebody else. That is the society that we've created. Why? Because now you're all dependent. Yeah? And you can benefit if you go and complain certain areas of life, you can benefit from it. Yeah? So you don't take responsibility. Turn it around. Life is about responsibilities. You make your decision. There's a big pond in the middle of Africa, and the antelope wants to go and drink. But there are crocodiles. They're crocodiles. And the antelope knows the crocodiles. He's been educated well by his parents. He knows. But he's thirsty. If he goes and have a drink, it's his choice at that moment in time, his responsibility. If he gets caught, no court in the land, antelope land, will go, the crocodile was guilty, so needs to be punished. No. Only personal responsibility. And that is ultimately where we're going with this. There is no other way. Why? Because the universe is structured that way. And the only responsibility any organism has is to keep itself alive. It doesn't have to even worry about keeping the species alive. No, that's part of the evolution. And some species will die off because of the circumstances, and others will be created, and so on and so forth. The individual organism doesn't have to worry itself. The only responsibility is try and keep yourself alive the best possible way. And outside human beings, all plants, all animals, if they know life is up for them, then you just go and lie down. You just leave it at that. There's no fighting back. Yeah? Every time I hear a cancer patient and I hear the family and friends saying, oh, but he's a fighter, he's going to make it, I think, dead. Seen it happen. The ones that have said the most and most frequently and kept repeating, I keep fighting this, they die the first. That's what I've seen all through my life. The ones that didn't even want to know that they had cancer, although they really knew, but it was an infection. And the doctors don't get the infection under control properly. And the family has to play a part in this, telling the doctor, no, don't tell mum that she's got cancer. Don't talk about treating her cancer. Yeah? Just treat her bowel function. That's all. And leave it at that. These people just die out slowly and not in pain.
Can I just ask, on the part of education now, obviously I'm going to educate myself reading books. I've got a 5-year-old granddaughter and she's very much into rainbows and drawing and colours. How would you introduce that, do you think? Or have you got any pointers for me to sort of get that into the awareness of my granddaughter, who's 5? Yeah, talking about frequencies and colours.
You don't educate your granddaughter, you have to educate your daughter or son. It's the parents who give guidance, not by what they say, but how they behave. If a child is used to having a cough and within 30 minutes being at the doctor's, then that is what it will learn. And we'll talk this afternoon about the patterns that create that. Yeah? If that same child has a cough for 3 weeks and the parents give them a hot bath, put them to bed early, and that's about it, and still coughing, nobody says anything, that cough is normal, let it go. Then that child, when that child is 20, 30, now won't go, my mum was a really bad mum, she never took me to the doctors. That young adult will just go, oh yeah, I've got it. All his colleagues at the office will go, oh my God, you've got a bad cold. And he'll go, a cold? No, I'm just coughing. What do you mean a cold? I don't have a cold, I'm not ill. I'm just coughing.
Detox.
Right? So, shall we say that, Rob,
What time is it now?
almost 11:30? 1 o'clock?
Yeah, 1:45 start coming back in.
1:45 back here. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.